What do you believe right now that's making you feel this way? And when you analyse it, you realise how irrational you can be at times.
Every single one of our major customers and minor customers all shut their doors overnight.
It's not sales per se, but the outcome of it is, because people get to know you, they get to see you.
Making those efficiencies to maximise service profits as well as just product profits.
When you lose the enthusiasm, that's the point to move on.
Scaling up a business isn't easy. If it were, we wouldn't have less than 4% of businesses scaling beyond 10 employees or around £1 million turnover level, and less than 1% beyond 50 employees. But the contribution that we make as owner-managers to our economies is immense and should never be underestimated. Yet it can be a tough gig for all of us at times, and only other business owners truly understand the challenges that we face. And through ScaleUp Radio, we aim to help make things a little easier. We interview guests who have been where you are now and may have faced some of the challenges that you are facing. And they offer their thoughts and advice on what has worked for them, as well as what didn't. And we've also combined many of the lessons from these interviews, and also through working with hundreds of owner-managers over the last 10 years or so, into a practical scale-up handbook that we've called the Entrepreneurial Scale-Up System, or ESUS. And it's for owner-managers like you and me as we navigate our own scale-up journey. And you can order a copy through your favourite online book retailer, or by going to all the W's, esusgroup.co.uk, www.esusgroup.co.uk. Welcome to ScaleUp Radio, where we bring you inspiring stories of entrepreneurial success. And this episode is no exception. Get ready to be really captivated by Brett Sanders, who is the director and co-founder of the Natural Deodorant Company. They kind of do what they say on the tin. But join me in this discussion with Brett as he reveals his really incredible journey behind the natural deodorant product that effectively eliminates odour, but is 100% natural. And from humble beginnings in their own home to creating a thriving business, Brett and his small team have overcome all sorts of challenges. They've gained valuable insights, turned their passion into a remarkable success story with still much more to come. We delve into how they put the product together, the power of education, the requirement of education in his market, and a concept around sample sizes and their strategies for managing cash flow and meeting growing demand. So whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur or simply looking for inspiration, this episode is going to leave you motivated and ready to take on all sorts of new challenges. So don't miss this opportunity to learn from Brett's really great entrepreneurial journey and his keys to unlocking scaling up within our businesses. Welcome to another episode of ScaleUp Radio. I'm here today with Brett Sanders, who is the director and co-founder of the Natural Deodorant Company. So, Brett, it's great to have you on board with ScaleUp Radio.
Thank you very much for having me. Great to meet you.
Yeah, so tell me all about the Natural Deodorant Company.
Of course. So, well, the Natural Deodorant Company is pretty much what it says on the tin. We are a company that sells natural deodorants. We've been around now for about 8.5 years, and the inception of the company, it was never intended to be a business, like all great ideas usually start.
Right.
We were making the decision, myself and my co-founder, to go natural in our lives, to all the green and eco things that weren't so commonplace maybe 10, 11, 12 years ago.
Right.
And we were cutting all of the things out of our lives, all the chemicals and the processed foods. It was a real sort of lifestyle change. We had a daughter who was very young at the time. I think my son was on the way. And the transition and changing all of these products in our lives that we now hear as problematic for the environment, and also adding chemical stress and toxic load to our bodies. The process of doing that was pretty good until we got to deodorants. And we tried all of the other deodorants on the market. And what we found right across the board was that none of them actually did their primary job of deodorizing.
None of the natural ones.
they were natural and they ticked boxes of being green and eco and healthier. But it was almost like the moment you put the word natural in front of deodorant, you gave it permission to not be as effective.
Right.
And I was a personal trainer for a long time at that time. And when you're personal training, you're close and upfront. Mm-hmm. It's obviously fairly hot and sweaty as well, being quite active. Yeah. And it's not polite to have body odor in society. Mm-hmm. So it's one thing, if you try a natural shampoo and it's not quite as effective, no one's really going to know but yourself. If you try a natural deodorant and it doesn't actually do its job, everyone's going to know, and you're going to quickly stop being invited to parties. We made this decision. We have to try and make our own. And it had to tick all of our values of green, eco, recyclable, good for the body, but it has to work over and above all of that.
Okay. In terms of where you are now then, what makes you different? Is it that you're 100% natural and you've got a product that works?
Yeah, I believe we have the most effective natural deodorant on the market. So as I said, we were scratching our own itch by creating this product. And if I don't wear deodorant, Kevin, I smell quite badly. And I smell very quickly. I have a shower. If I don't put anything on, within 30, 40 minutes, I smell. And I can put my deodorant on, our deodorant, sorry, and I can last at least 24 hours, which is what most people expect it to do. And in testing, I don't do this every day, I can go well beyond that 24-hour shower and even still be smelling fresh up towards 48 hours. So really, all of the natural side of it is a bonus. But in terms of effectiveness, that's what we have that competes with other commercial brand deodorants.
Brilliant. And what sort of stage have you got the business to now?
Well, 8.5 years in, we're very well established now. We're in 600-700 retailers around the world. That's in multiple different countries. Our most notable retailer is Holland & Barrett in the UK. Yeah. I believe last time I checked, we were the highest rated deodorant on their site. So that's something to be very proud of. Yeah. Obviously, you can buy us in all the usual places on our own sites, on Amazon as well.
So good. And how big's the team now?
The team is very small still. We're still a team of 4.
Okay. Yeah.
That's myself, my co-founder, and 2 other staff members. A couple of freelancers outside of that. But yeah, we are a small team, and we just thrive by working hard.
Great. So so going back to the natural side, would it pass the Deborah Meaden test?
I believe it would, actually. We are aware of Deborah is an investor in another natural deodorant we're aware of. Yeah, I won't give any press on here. Their product's very similar to ours in terms of ingredients, where it's a cream-based formula. Theirs is in a stick form that it needs to be a little bit firmer to be a stick that you roll on. Yeah. Our product's actually a cream, so you apply it like you'd apply any other cream, face cream, body moisturizer, except it goes under your armpits, and it just happens to have ingredients that deodorize and fights the bacteria in our sweat that ultimately causes odor.
Okay, and is that something that you have to address with consumers? Because I guess we're used to now, aren't we? We're used to either sticks or roll-ons or sprays. They're going out of fashion, I guess, the spray, but we're used to those sort of things rather than having to dip our fingers in something and rub under our arms. So is that something you have to address with consumers?
We do. It's one of the obstacles, because again, people like what they like. But once you get them to change, they go, oh, hang on, I do this with every other product. The only other one I can think of really is a lipstick or a lip balm. But again, no reason why you probably couldn't apply that with your fingers. But I don't know what, if you go back, I forget the years, but if you go back a very long way, we found advertisements of deodorants in a similar form to ours, in a tin or a jar. Yeah. And I don't know at what point in society the industry changed to say, you've got to apply your deodorant from a distance. Yeah. But we're really proud of our application method. We believe it's more hygienic. You get out of the shower, you take a clean hand into your pot, under your arms, lid on, you're done. Rather than taking that stick, under your arm, lid on, under your arm, lid on, over and over again.
Yeah.
Probably not as clean as the method we've got.
Interesting. Yeah.
Absolutely zero waste in that jar, and obviously as an eco product anyway, but it shouldn't really matter whether it's eco or not. The consumer doesn't want to waste anything. You don't want any little residue at the bottom of your refill or your container, and you can get right inside and absolutely leave no trace whatsoever. And also, when you apply with your hand, you can rub it in precisely where you want, and you can make sure it's all rubbed into your skin. And what's one of the other main complaints of deodorants of any type, natural or otherwise, it's that transference from your skin to your clothes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So a lot of sticks. How many times have you seen people arms up waiting for that deodorant application to dry before they put their clothes on? You don't have any of that with ours, because with your hand, again, you get to rub it in and leaves nothing to transfer onto your clothes.
Okay, very good. So tell us how did you get started then? So you were a physical trainer, personal trainer, and it sounds like you kind of put this together for your own use around the dining room table sort of thing. So how did it come to pass?
Exactly that. It was just done at home with a few small bags of ingredients, and we put them together. And I say this phrase, and at first when I used to say it, I was actually embarrassed to say it. It's life-changing. When you smell you haven't got a deodorant that matches your values, that actually works, when you find one that does, you kind of expect to smell, and then you don't smell, and then you don't smell, and the day goes on, and I still smell fresh. It is life-changing. And the reason I now no longer feel silly saying that is because the reviews we're seeing from our customers also use that phrase, just sort of makes me feel validated somewhat. But we went from making our own, and then tell family and friends this is what you're doing. And I think again back 10, 12 years ago when we were into organic food and all this kind of more natural living, I think our friends and family thought we were a bit strange. But then we'd make a pot for them and they'd go, hang on, this is amazing, this is great, this is better than my commercial deodorant. And they'd change, particularly people like my parents who they're not natural in any way, they're quite the opposite. You would have thought, that this would not be a product they would use, but they've used it ever since, and they're our biggest fans, really, and they have no obligation to be. So we went from that and thought, hang on, maybe there's a business here. Maybe this is something we could actually serve. So as a personal trainer, I was somewhat entrepreneurially mindset, and I had a few other business attempts before this one that didn't quite take off. So I suppose I was always looking for that next idea that was going to be the one, and it happened to be this one. So we, all on our own, we created the labels, we did the product testing, we did built the websites, all of the things that you have to do at early stages of the business, and of course production as well, and began selling on our website, and it literally went from a few a day to multiplying every week to every month, and we got picked up by a small yoga studio in London, and then one of the bigger natural websites in the country took us on, and it's gone on and on from there.
Okay, brilliant. So take us back. So if for those of us that have never formulated a product, it's certainly a personal product, cream, deodorant, whatever. No, someone's done that. How do you even? Where do you start? I wouldn't know what to combine, and if we're trying to look for natural deodorant properties, I'd have no idea where to start. So, what gave you the experience and knowledge to do that?
Well, my co-founder came from a history in the beauty industry. Okay. So she started off working with some of the more commercial brands. She then started working for a natural and organic brand after that. So she had a little bit of a heads up on the types of ingredients that would go into natural and organic products. And I'll be honest, we don't, and at that time didn't have any training on this. It was really trial and error, finding and researching the right ingredients. And then in terms of the formulation and the percentages, it was a lot of trial and error and lots of wrong ones before we finally found the right one. And we launched with one product, and we then expanded that into a product range. Now we have 12 unique products across 3 different formulations for different people's skin types. As we learned about our original formulation. We thought, well, there's other people with sensitive skin that might be better with a slightly gentler version. So it's evolved in that way. But really through trial and error, Kevin.
And are there any regulations in this industry? Yeah.
Yes, there are. Yeah. So once you've got that formulation, it then has to go through. At the time, it was just the EU CPMP pre-Brexit, and now we have a UK CP and the EU CPMP to deal with. So yes, all of that's part and parcel of it.
Okay. So, and what's involved in then getting a product approved?
So, oh God, we're going through it now with a new product. So it's providing the formulation percentages, the ingredients, the suppliers, packaging details, and classification of the packaging materials, and that all goes through to an assessor. We use one of the large assessors in the country who are very helpful. I think they have a lot of people who are small, like we were. Okay. So they've got that hand-holding approach, which is invaluable at the time because, like I say, we didn't know really what we were doing like we do now, and it was great to have them on board. And then you send them through samples, and they then put them through testing, microbiological testing, and pathogen testing, and stability across a time frame that they can accelerate to see how it's going to last over months and months and years. Temperatures, and then once it all comes back, then you can notify it on the various portals.
Great, and you get things like a shelf life and all of those.
That's all part of that. Yes.
Yeah. Good. So how did you go about sourcing the ingredients?
Oh, at the beginning, we had no business sense whatsoever. It was obviously, Google was our friend there and trying to find places. We didn't put any consideration into profit, and I believe even our first few months we were spending more on ingredients than we were actually making. Until we sort of thought, okay, let's take a step back and work out exactly what it's going to cost for each percentage of ingredient going into a pot, and therefore what we need to buy the supplies for. So from that point on, it was trying to then buy as much as we could that we had, so to improve the margins. But it was that was a tricky one with cash flow.
And how did you price it then to make sure, because you've got different channels then so initially you were selling direct through your website, so you've got no middle person really, but then the moment that you start introducing it through other outlets, and we'll come on to that in a minute, but you said you're now with 600 or 700 retailers, then you've got different margins you need to consider at different stages of the chain, haven't you?
Yes. Yeah, it's again something we weren't familiar with, so we were thankful that the first couple of retailers, this small chain of yoga studios and the organic website that we first sold to, they were great in helping us out, holding our hands, which I think if we'd gone straight into a bigger player, that would have been harder. They probably would have taken advantage of us, but these guys were really great and sort of made suggestions that worked for us. There's obviously, when you're selling in bulk to a retailer, there's costs that you don't have when we're just sending individual packages through the mail. So it all sort of worked it out. I'm quite analytical in a sense. So
and
big spreadsheets with all these different.
Yes, yeah, I can imagine. And at the end of the day, there's a price point that you feel the consumer will buy or not buy at, certainly all of the volumes that you want. So did you have to reconsider that once you started looking at the other channels? Yeah,
I think, yes, we started a bit too low. I think you get nervous, don't you, as a new business? Is anyone going to buy this? Yeah. Ultimately, we saw that it was popular, and people, as a product, it lasts a very long time. Actually, as a business, we've sort of shot ourselves in the foot because it does last such a long time. It is so effective that you don't need a lot. So one jar will last you anything between 2 and 3 months. Some people say longer. And so when we had these first people trialing it, they were saying, this is lasting forever. You could charge a lot more for this. But then the difference is with the consumer who might buy a deodorant and they might buy it every couple of weeks or every month maybe. They're spending a lot less but more frequently. So for us, if you're spending a higher price point and it's going to last you 2 or 3 months, it's trying to educate the consumer that actually, it might be a bit higher price now, but it's going to last you some time. That was quite difficult at first.
Yeah, it's often that, isn't it? Because all we see, most of us as consumers, we just see, oh, well, it's that amount or that amount for the deodorant. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, one of the key things we did, and this wasn't long ago, I don't remember when exactly, but we actually hard-coded into the website right underneath the price how long it lasts.
Okay.
And it's right there that you can see, and we saw a big uptick in conversion rates on the website from that point. So it's little things like that you learn along the way that you think, oh, the price, it's not a big amount, but then when you're comparing it to the commercial brands that are far cheaper, people will possibly off put by that.
So you can educate and encourage the consumer to think about it almost as a cost per day, as opposed to a cost per pot or cost per stick or something. Yeah. Good. All right. So what happened next? You had some success. Family and friends, formulated, you got on the website, did all the branding yourself and all the packaging yourself. Actually, there's probably a lot we can unpick in there as well, what you learned from that. But also then you got into the first yoga outlet, first retailer, essentially. So take us from there. What sort of things worked and what didn't?
I know you're testing my memory, but one of the big changes we made probably 6 months in was we introduced a sample size.
Oh, okay.
And it was, so our usual pots are 55 grams. So like I say, that will last you 10 to 12 weeks. And we introduced a small, I think at the time it was 5 grams, but it's now a 10 gram sample. And it was a much easier sell.
Yeah.
We knew that once we had that sample, the product of any size in somebody's hands or in their armpits, that we were getting great return rates. And it was, people just needed to try it. But they were offered by that higher price point. So we got the smaller samples and we started using those. We would send those free of charge to some of the early retailers. They would then give them away, free gift for purchase kind of offers. Yeah. And then we saw the sales come back from there. And it was brilliant. There was a big jump.
That sounds like a really good insight, actually, and that's that.
I think we're the first deodorant company, certainly in the country, to do a sample size, and others have followed suit, but we were definitely the first, and it's worthwhile doing. Yeah,
and I like it because you say you identified that there might be this barrier because you got something new, and it maybe the price point looks a little bit high. You've got that confidence in your own product, and it's with hindsight, you can see exactly why that would have been a great tactic. So yeah, good.
Yeah.
All right. So what are some of the other key inflection points in the business? Has it all been a smooth line since then? I asked that tongue in cheek because I don't think anybody ever has a smooth line. Go on.
No, of course. I'm trying to list of mistakes. We printed a whole batch of labels with the wrong details on. That was an instant big mistake. It's on and on it goes, really, isn't it? But we grew to a point where we couldn't do it at home anymore. So that was sort of when I would say when it actually turned into a proper business.
Okay. So up until this point, were you making it yourself?
Yes, actually, I still make about 90% of it myself.
Right. Okay.
Which is that's arguably the biggest challenge we have right now is that we're growing still month on month, and I'm literally got notes in front of me here trying to calculate how we can meet the demand with as little man hours as possible. But when we went from doing it at home to we actually took on a warehouse and built in a kitchen space, clean room.
Yeah,
that was when it started to get more serious, and we instantly knew that we have to make this work. We then got into more retailers. Whole Foods Market was one of the biggest names that we took on first. And I remember conversations, how are we going to manage this demand? And since then, it's grown. I couldn't tell you the numbers, but it's grown so much since then that every time we keep making that meeting that demand.
And you're essentially making that in your unit, help us to picture that unit. I mean, is it literally people with pots and stirring pots together, or have you got some kind of production line? What's it look like?
Essentially, it is a production line, but it's a one-person production line. We have gone, since from that first unit, we've gone into a second, bigger units, because we outgrew it. And as I mentioned earlier, we've started to source things in bigger quantities to try and improve the margins, and just didn't have anywhere to store anything, and we were all tripping over each other. It's I think in a sense it's a fairly, if you spoke to somebody who's got a manufacturing facility that do this professionally, what we do is fairly rudimentary, and they call it like a kitchen cook, where we put in the ingredients together. They then go into the filling machine. So I go from this stage over to this stage, and then on to the next stage, and then out into the warehouse for the staff who that we've got that do the labeling and boxing. Okay, so you're doing batch production, small batches, and presumably then if you're changing over to a different formulation, because you said you've got how many ranges have you got now? Did you say 12?
12. So you're doing them in batches, or what, how many you need of a particular formulation, and then we'll move on to the next. Yeah, that's it. We're sort of producing anything up towards about 60 odd litres at a time. So yeah, it's not a small amount anymore. I remember when it was literally a few pots being made at a time. Yeah. And at what stage do you think you might have to change that production method? We're there now. We have had, like I say, we've had some produced by other companies, and quite honestly, again, sort of these mistakes and challenges that you come across, one of those companies hasn't quite worked out. So again, eight or so years into the business, I'd hoped that I wouldn't be still doing all the making that I am at the moment, and I think my hands turning lids they're gonna hate me one day. But we're very, very soon, in the next couple of weeks, moving on to another manufacturer, and as soon as they prove they can do the job, unlike the other partners, then we'll give them more and more. So, and how much of your time at the moment then is taken up with actually producing the product? If you'd asked me about a month ago, it was probably about 50-60% of the time, and it's last month has probably been upwards towards 80-90% of the time. It's it's a challenge. Yeah, good. So what have you learned to this point then? What would you if you were advising me, if I was going to go and follow in your footsteps, what are some of the things you'd advise me against, or that I must do? Well, the best thing, that the two staff members we've got are invaluable. They work so hard, and that, I'm a hard worker, and I think when you hard work something that anyone can do, but not everyone will do. So again, from a background in fitness, I'm no stranger to hard work, and to have those team members who are willing to do the same thing, if you can find that, then great, because you can't replace that. Yeah. So first and foremost, if you're going to hire the right people. What else? It's a really good question, because I don't know. I'll be honest. I don't know if I could go back and do it again. I don't know how I could replicate it, if you like. And I don't want to sort of put myself down, because myself and my co-founder, we've done an amazing job, and we're so proud of what we've done. Almost should have documented it as we went along, because as I look back on it now, it's all a bit of a blur. Yeah. But if you say, could I do it again? Could I teach the art of getting a business from zero, no investment? I think we started with £500 or something like that, and we said, we can put this into it and see how far it goes. Upward, approaching 7 figures now. Yeah. Could I do that again? I'm not sure. I'd like to hope I could, but. And how does the cash flow work? Because it strikes me that the cash flow cycle must require you to purchase all of the ingredients, So you've got all of those costs. You've got to produce it, pay the people, the staff that you've got, and bottle it or put it into the jars, and then it's got to go out to retail. At which point you may get your money. So what's that? How do you manage that cash flow cycle?
Well, early on, it was quite easy because we didn't take any money for ourselves. It was just the two of us with no staff. And I think maybe even up towards 3.5 years, we took nothing. So it was all being reinvested back into the business. So yeah, very easy. As long as we had the margins right. Now it gets more challenging because, you want to grow. So we need more of everything. It's not just one ingredient. Everything needs to multiply. And then you have issues like when the issues in Ukraine began. How long ago was that now? Nearly 18 months ago. We were told we couldn't get any glass jars for 6-7 months.
Right.
So we thought, okay, well now we've got to order 6 months worth that are going to last us. And as a growing business, it's like, well, how many are we going to need for 6 months? Whereas our usual turnaround time is 2 or 3 months. How we manage it is just gritting our teeth and and fighting on. But we've got good enough margins, and we've built it's having a small team that's allowed us to be able to not spend too much.
And how will things change as you go to having it manufactured?
The margins aren't too different. They're a little bit worse, but not a big difference.
Yeah, and do they require particular volume runs and things like that? They do.
The one we found at the moment is specialises in small sizes. So given we've got 12 different SKUs, that's quite manageable for us to have a lot of small ones, as opposed to if we'd had one product selling the same amount as 12, we'd have to buy so much of that one.
Yeah.
So it's a bit more manageable doing it this way. And we'll do it baby steps. I remember the accountant that we have sort of saying, do things little steps rather than taking too many big steps. And that's helped us out.
Yeah. And what have you learned about, because you've obviously added to the product range, started with the one, and you've added 11 more to go to the 12. What have you learned about adding more and more into your product range?
It's a challenge because I'm a bit of a people pleaser. I like to make everyone happy, and if you've got a product that's selling, even if it's not selling too well, compared to say the 12th versus the first, as a business person, you think, we'll drop the bottom one and just put more focus onto the others. We're at a size now where even the bottom one, if we drop that, I fear that we're going to make thousands of people unhappy. So the people pleaser comes out, and I say, I'll just keep making the 12th one. Again, possibly against my better judgment, because we did actually drop a couple of cents early on, 3 or 4 years in, and we dropped them because back when this goes to speak to natural ingredients, there was a low yield of chamomile oil in Asia, and the price of chamomile oil just went through the roof, and it was unjustifiable to keep producing that product with chamomile essential oil in it. So we dropped it, and at the time we were so much smaller, and the number of people that complained and kept hounding us, bring it back. It was I think that's put me off ever dropping even a low selling product again. But it's possible somebody can't get that one. They might go sideways to the others. I don't know. So I don't know if I've learned anything, to answer your question. Still learning.
Well, and it's often a challenge as we scale as to whether we should keep adding to the range, and there comes a point, of course, at which we have to make those decisions. You've got too many SKUs, and we need to then start to focus down. And part of the reason I'm asking is, with those discussions you might have had with the manufacturer, is how they would have gone. But it sounds like you've got somebody that's prepared to deal with relatively small numbers of a number of different ranges.
Yeah, with something like a scent, it's so person specific. We've just come back from this weekend. We've done it a few times now. Fern Cotton runs a festival every year, Happy Place Festival. Okay. And being an online brand, we don't get to actually see as many customers face to face as we would probably like to. So these events are invaluable, where we actually get to stand with everybody. They've got 12 different scents in front of them and smell them, try them out. And the variation in people's sense of smell and what they like and dislike is so vast. You can have a group of friends and someone smells something and goes, oh my God, that's gorgeous. And then their friend goes, oh, no, not for me. So it's almost like, who are we to say you need to be smelling like this? Or do you go for the most common? I don't know. I don't know now the answer to that one.
Yeah, well, that's still something that you've got plenty of time to work out.
We have learning so much and will continue to, and listen to customers really.
I mean, you often find. I mean, what is the mix like? Have you got one or two of those products that make up a relatively large percentage of your sales?
We do. The bestseller is the bestseller by a long way. So that one will never go, and that's our very first one as well.
Right, which is great. So so there's a decision around there at some point as to whether to continue with all of the others, or whether actually you could do better by really focusing, as you were saying earlier, on the hero product, if you like, the one that's really going and drive that right forwards. But good. So you mentioned the people side and hiring the right people. So how did you get it right? Because we all struggle with recruitment. We'd all love to attract and retain great people to work with us, but we certainly don't all get it right. So what's your keys? What's your lessons?
Or I don't know if it was luck or not, but one of those staff members is actually my sister, who I think spawned from our dad, who and mum as well, but who worked very, very hard and always worked hard, and I think we got that from them. Yep. So there was no doubt about it that she would always put in a role. And then another staff member is sort of, I think, led by my sister, who sort of inspires from the front as well. So it's a team that just always wants to keep doing more and more. So you've got the like I said to you last month, where I've been producing double what I was doing before I go. And not only is I sometimes go a bit like, a bit of the martyr. God, I'm doing all this and making more and more, forgetting that I've got to take it out to them to process it. And they're stepping up and they're doing amazing. Maybe it's all the way down, right from my mum and dad to myself, and then my sister and Debbie. They're all following through, and it's just a team. I'm not asking anybody to do anything that I wouldn't do.
And what have you learned then also about, as you're now dealing with 600 or 700 retailers, and you say you've got a couple of big ones in there, certainly Holland & Barrett, people like that. So what have you learned about your dealings with them?
First, from the customer's perspective, as a new brand that doesn't necessarily have household name recognition, it's very, very valuable to have a brand on board. So there are challenges of working with a big company. There's lots of, when you get the delivery requirements from the warehouse at Holland & Barrett, it's a multi-page document that the pallet needs to be packed like this, and the invoice needs to look like this, and all that sort of stuff. And it's not unique to Holland & Barrett, but it's all stuff that they cover themselves. So that's really, really difficult when you compare that to the smaller yoga studio who says, just send it in. So the demands that come from a big player, they're worth taking, not just because of what they pay us and that relationship, which is obviously fantastic, and the reach that they have. But when you're then trying to market the products and sell to a person who's on the fence, they've got a little bit of a hesitance around natural deodorants because of the past reputation of their effectiveness or lack of. You can then use that third-party recognition and say, we're in Holland & Barrett, we're in Planet Organic, we're in Whole Foods Market, these places, and that's worth doing. So if you can possibly, if you're a new business or a small product, if you can link up with any retailer any way you can, I would say it's worth doing, even if there are challenges presented with that.
And what did you learn about getting into Holland & Barrett or any of the others for that matter, in the first place? Because it's you say again, it's the first one really, I suppose, that is often the toughest one, because they're the ones that are taking all the risks. There's no history to comfort them. So what did you learn about that?
It's a slow process. You imagine it's like you send them a product, they say they like it, and then you're on the shelves the next week. It doesn't work like that. It's I think it's a good 6 to 9 months with Holland & Barrett, and a little bit less with Whole Foods. So it does take some time, and it's a bit laborious. There's so much paperwork and things that they want you to provide for them. So you've got to be prepared with all of that. You've got to have all of your information. There's no winging it whatsoever.
Yeah,
and so that's the first thing to sort of notice. But I don't think we've had any challenges in that regard, because once people try it, they, like I said earlier, they usually like it and they say, "Hang on, this is worth selling." So it's been fairly easy to actually.
And how did you open the door to Holland & Barrett in the first place?
I'm trying to remember now which Holland & Barrett was, but I believe we for a time we had a lady who was doing retailer sales for us. Okay, and she opened that door.
Excellent, good. And did they do things like trial you in a couple of stores before they rolled it out?
Yeah, we trialed in 60 stores, and we were in those stores for about 3 years. And it was just last 9 months. We're now in all 600. So there's obviously proof of concept. It worked across the 60. So they've decided to push us everywhere.
Very good. Excellent. So what's the legacy that you want to leave?
Wow, big question there. It's so you can ask that on multiple levels. Is it just purely the business, or is it family and children? I think. Well, there's a degree of being as a business owner. There's a degree of selfishness there that I'm doing this because I love it, but I like to think that I'm doing everything for my children and giving them a good impression of what hard work is. Mm-hmm. I've got 2 children and 2 stepchildren. They're all same ages, 14 and 12, which is a lot of hard work at home. But I want to show them that you can work hard and still have fun as well, and still come home and try and be super dad. So I'd say that's really what I want. Yeah, it's when I depart, hopefully not too soon. The children look back and go, "Oh yeah, did a good job in everything."
And what would you count as success with the business?
With the business, I think we're already successful. I don't think I have massive aspirations to grow. I'd love to keep growing. I think you can be grateful for one thing while at the same time striving for something else.
Indeed,
but not many people really are able to do what we've done. Not able to is the wrong word, actually. Not many people do. Plenty of people are able to. But to take a business from zero with next to no investment. We also at that time didn't have a lot of money personally. Just one personal trainer's income, which wasn't doing a whole lot. So to actually sit on our hands and say, we're not going to touch any money in this business was quite a challenge as well, because if we'd done that, we would have taken from the pot, the business would have grown slower. So I'm very proud of all of those little steps that sort of, it's hard to think about at the time, like, oh, we're doing a great job by not spending this money we're earning. Actually, it was, in hindsight, one of the best things we ever did.
Right.
But to take it from there to now, I feel successful for sure.
Absolutely.
Again, we were at this festival at the weekend, and just a couple of people come over. We met you last year. You changed my life. I'll never buy another deodorant. Honestly, it's like one of those things, when your eyes think, oh yeah, I'm just cutting onions. It was really,
no onions in your products, though, I'm sure.
No onions in your products. It was really a touching moment. Send chills down your spine. Like, wow, just like we are actually doing a good thing here.
Yeah, good. No, absolutely. So and absolutely, you should definitely be proud. And what, I'm glad you raised that, because so often we're always striving for the next big thing and not giving ourselves a pat on the back and counting the journey itself as much as anything is what we need to make sure we enjoy and feel good about, not just where we think we need to get to. Yes, good. So what if you come back on to ScaleUp Radio in 5 years' time? Where do you want to be? What has to have happened for you to go, you know what? That is successful. That's where
I'd like to have more staff members, because at the moment it's not something we can really justify. And again, I am willing to put the hours in, and to not just the hours, but the hard graft, as the whole team is. But to grow, we do need more people, and so hopefully, certainly within 5 years, that should have happened. And certainly something I'll know in my head. We will have made that next step when I just absolutely cannot keep producing at the rate I am.
Yeah,
we're forced to have somebody else do it. We'd love to have a foothold in a few other countries. We are already worldwide. We're in a few different places around the world, but we're still predominantly the UK. So it'd be nice to have a little bit of presence elsewhere.
Great. And have you had to do anything differently to be in those other countries?
Yes, certainly after Brexit, that was a huge challenge for us. At the time, Spain was our second biggest country by a long way, and overnight gone. So we had to, as I said earlier, had to do different registrations and different requirements that the EU wanted on labelling and all that sort of stuff. So we had to do that. And then we also had to find a new distributor, which we now have, that we have a very happy relationship with, just for Spain. So that was, just knowing the rules in a country and having somebody who's got their feet in a country to tell you what's necessary is key.
Yeah, great.
Try to love yourself.
Good. Well, I found this fascinating, and I'm tempted to try the products. So I think we'll do that. Are you okay for a couple of quick fire questions as we close?
I'll try.
So, if you could go back to your younger self, what advice would you give yourself?
Don't take things too seriously. I sort of lost a lot of 20s in working harder than I balanced it out with social.
Yeah,
it's hard to look back with regrets. Like sort of, I do feel successful now, and if I hadn't had my history, I'd be where I am now. So, if I could assume that I'm still going to end up at this same point, I would have nurtured my relationships with my friends in my early 20s better than I did.
Great. Okay, good. Any books or podcasts or other resources that you found particularly helpful?
I wouldn't say no, not really for the in terms of growing the business. I'm an avid podcast listener, but
what sort of things do you listen to?
I don't educate myself. I try and listen to comedy type stuff.
Yeah,
I listen to a lot of American comedians, Bert Kreischer, Theo Von, those kinds of stand-up comedians. Bit of a distraction, if you like.
Okay, very good. No, and we need that. We need that as well. What about technology or apps? What bits of tech do you find the most useful? What have you got on your phone, for example?
Pretty simple. Notes, Apple Notes. That's I use all the time. literally transferring things from, forgot notes, and then it's going on to having everything synced up is probably my biggest hack, where I don't have to then, transfer things or send myself emails. It's already there on every device that I could possibly want it to be.
Right. Okay. And who would you say has had the most influence on you as a business leader?
It's got to be my dad, I'd say. Business owner, again, small team. It was just him and my mum. And he worked his tail off. They both did, but he's the one for sure.
Good, excellent. And I always ask this as well. What's your most successful marketing lead generation approach or tactic? How do you find new customers?
We're pretty successful on Facebook, Facebook advertising. So we were doing that very early on in the business, and that was in the golden age of Facebook ads, where it was low cost, low competition, and we were getting great returns. You'd put a Facebook ad up, and you wouldn't even go back and check the analytics for months, but when you did, the results were good. You can tell straight away. Yeah, you tell straight away. Now, post pandemic, every small business out there is using Facebook ads, and the cost has risen, and you can put an ad up and make no conversions from it whatsoever. We've managed to transform that, and we've got a little bit of a system, if you like, that is working for us.
Great.
Bit of time there to get there. We had a period where it wasn't working, and we learnt from what didn't work to try to actually have the system we've got in place now. So it's really just scaling the system we've already got. That's been most successful for us, without a doubt.
Excellent. Really good.
And the samples that I mentioned earlier.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's the key thing.
So that's a marketing tool, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Very good. Thank you very much indeed, Brett, for coming on ScaleUp Radio. If people would like to get hold of you or find out more about the Natural Deodorant Company, what's the best way for them to do that?
They can find us at our website, naturaldeoco.com. That's naturaldeoco.com. And we're on all the socials, Natural Deoco. And we look forward to seeing you all over there.
Fantastic. And presumably people can request a free sample, can they, or a low cost sample?
We actually do a system on the site where if somebody buys a sample, then they will get a coupon code that they can redeem against their next full size order.
Perfect.
So it essentially makes it free.
Brilliant. Brett, thank you very much indeed for coming on ScaleUp Radio.
Pleasure.
I hope you enjoyed that discussion, and if you're building and scaling your own business, you might well be interested in our book, The Entrepreneurial Scale-Up System. And it's exactly what it says on the tin. It's a practical handbook around scaling a business in a structured way. And you can order a copy on all your favorite online retailers, including an audio version, or you can find it and other supporting resources on our website, www.esusgroup.co.uk. That's esusgroup.co.uk, which is esusgroup.co.uk.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.